Let's start with our top story coming out of the U.S. President Donald Trump has unveiled his Middle East peace plan calling for two states with the Palestinian capital in parts of East Jerusalem. The proposal also calls for the recognition of illegal Israeli settlements in the West Bank in exchange for a 4-year ban on new settlements.
After 2 years of discussion, the U.S. president unveiled his long-awaited Middle East plan with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House. Trump's self-proclaimed deal of the century has eschewed global consensus on the Palestinian conflict. Among other pro-Israeli tilts, the plan denies Palestinian refugees their right of return. But Trump claims otherwise.
My vision presents a win-win opportunity for both sides, a realistic two-state solution that resolves the risk of Palestinian statehood to Israel's security.
Palestinians have rejected the plan as a political circus. President Mahmoud Abbas called it a conspiracy.
I say to the partners Trump and Netanyahu, Jerusalem is not for sale. All our rights are not for sale and are not for bargain. And your deal, the conspiracy, will not pass.
Iran, Turkey and Jordan have categorically rejected the deal, calling it a flawed and dead deal. While the UAE, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Qatar and the UK have voiced support for the plan.
Well, the UN says it is committed to helping Palestine and Israel end their conflict with the two-state solution that uses the pre-1967 borders. In a statement, Secretary General Antonio Guterres says the UN stands by the relevant Security Council and General Assembly resolutions. The statement comes after U.S. President Trump's new Middle East plan ignored the international consensus on the conflict. The deal calls for the legitimization of Jewish settlements, long regarded as illegal under UN resolutions, and denies Palestinian refugees their right of return. In January 2017, a UN Security Council resolution was adopted a month before Donald Trump became U.S. president. That resolution demanded an end to illegal Israeli settlements, with 14 votes in favor and 1 abstention. In other news, the UN Security Council has met at Britain's request to discuss the crisis in Yemen. In his briefing to the closed-door session, UN envoy Martin Griffiths reiterated the importance of stopping the military escalation. Griffiths warned that recent developments jeopardize the progress parties had made on de-escalation and confidence building. Diplomats said the Security Council urged parties to re-engage in the political process. The UN welcomed the Houthi rebels' release of 64 children captured during military operations. Earlier in Washington, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo called on all parties to exercise restraint. This came after a fresh escalation led to over 100 people being killed in renewed fighting. The U.S. now says 50 American soldiers sustained brain injuries in the Iranian attack on its troops in Iraq. Previously, the Pentagon claimed only 11 soldiers were hurt, after which it revised the tally to 34. In a statement, the Pentagon said 31 have recovered after treatment in Iraq, while 15 were recently diagnosed. It said 18 soldiers had been sent to Germany for further evaluation and treatment, while another was sent to Kuwait. On January 8th, Tehran fired a volley of ballistic missiles at Iraq in retaliation for the killing of Major General Qasem Soleimani. After that attack, U.S. President Donald Trump said not a single U.S. soldier was harmed. Well, President Donald Trump's defense team has concluded its opening arguments in the U.S. Senate impeachment trial. Senate Republicans concede they lack the votes to block trial witnesses. In a closed-door meeting, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said several Republicans are apparently ready to join Democrats.
As the U.S. elections draw closer, Trump's team is fighting desperately for a speedy acquittal. But with the real possibility of witnesses being called by the Democrats, that hope is slowly fading. McConnell's admission and reports that ex-National Security Advisor John Bolton has implicated Trump in his new book have re-energized Senate Democrats.
President Trump and Ambassador Bolton said diametrically opposed things. Only one of them is willing to testify under oath. Who do you believe?
While some Republicans might vote for the Democrats' cause, Senator Lindsey Graham claims there are double standards at play.
I am ready to make my decision based on the record established in the House. The House chose not to pursue witnesses that were available to them. I don't want to start a precedent of just doing it half-assed in the House and expect the Senate to fix it.
Trump's defense team now faces 2 days of questioning in the Senate. During this time, each party will be able to ask questions for up to 16 hours during today and tomorrow.
Scientists in China and Australia have recreated copies of coronavirus to develop a diagnostic test. Doctors say the copy could be used as control material for testing and will be a game changer for diagnosis. More now about the virus in this report.
As the death toll from coronavirus mounts, the public health response is picking up. Several coronaviruses known to scientists are present in animals without infecting humans. A novel coronavirus is a new strain whose image under the microscope is reminiscent of a solar corona.
The coronavirus is a group of viruses, a family of viruses. They have their big RNA viruses. They have actually some of the biggest RNA genomes of any virus. They predominantly cause respiratory disease in humans.
Scientists in Australia have become the first to recreate the new coronavirus outside China. They will share the discovery with the World Health Organization to help detect and treat the disease. Researchers in the US are also working on developing a test. It is based on the latest genomic information on the emerging virus and is expected to be ready soon.
We can ramp this up relatively quickly, as I said, in sort of weeks to about a month. And so we're ready, for these things all the time. We had to do this with Zika. We had to do this for enterovirus D68. We've had to do this with 2009 H1N1.
Chinese authorities say the virus is able to spread during the incubation period, but the WHO says it is not clear whether it is contagious before symptoms appear.
Well, that deadly coronavirus has now killed 132 people in China. The number of people infected by the virus has jumped to nearly 10,000. All of the new deaths were reported in Hubei province, except for one in the adjoining northern province of Henan. 56 million people in China are prevented from traveling in an attempt to contain the spread of the virus. Meanwhile, the UAE has confirmed its first case of the fatal virus. Several countries, including the US, Japan, and Australia, are evacuating their citizens from Wuhan.
We have taken a decision this morning to prepare a plan for an operation to provide some assisted departures for isolated and vulnerable Australians in Wuhan in the Hubei province.
On to some other news now. The European Parliament will debate India's controversial Citizenship Act today and vote on the resolution tomorrow. The law, considered anti-Muslim, has sparked mass protests, rallies and sit-ins across India for over a month. In the final draft, the EU Parliament has called the law discriminatory and dangerously divisive. The joint resolution has been put forward by 560 of Parliament's 751 MPs. Parliament has called on New Delhi to repeal the biased amendments which violate India's international obligations. The draft also says the act can target marginalized groups and create large-scale statelessness of religious minorities in India. It condemned Delhi's internet shutdown and called it a violation of the fundamental right to access information. The final resolution has been agreed on by 6 of the largest political groups in the European Parliament. Occupied Kashmir's pro-freedom parties and organizations have warned of a possible false flag operation by Indian forces. The concern was expressed by Tehreek-e-Hurriyat Jammu and Kashmir People's League and Young Men's League. They said the arrest of police officer Davinder Singh has exposed India's hand in violent operations in the valley. They cited the 2007 Samjhota Express blast and 2001 attack on the Indian Parliament as New Delhi's efforts to malign Pakistan and freedom fighters. The political parties highlighted the ongoing humanitarian, health crisis and economic losses in the valley. The occupied valley is reeling under Indian lockdown and communications blackout for 178 days. 9 people have died and 41 others have been injured after a bus fell off a bridge in India's eastern Odisha state. Police said the accident took place in Ganjam district. They said the bus was on its way to Berhampur city from the town of Tikri. The injured have been shifted to Berhampur and Dilapahandi hospitals. U.S. forces have recovered 2 bodies near the wreckage of a military aircraft that crashed in Afghanistan's Ghazni province. The Taliban had claimed they shot down the Bombardier E-11A used for battlefield communications on Monday. A U.S. military statement said the bodies were treated with dignity and respect by the local Afghan community. It said U.S. forces found and recovered the flight data recorder for analysis and destroyed the wreckage. The military repeated there are no indications the crash was caused by enemy fire. Time now for our first break. Don't go anywhere though, the news continues right after. Let's begin this segment of the Bulletin in Peru, where authorities have deported over 100 Venezuelan nationals with criminal records. In a statement, the Interior Minister Carlos Moran said 41 women were among the deportees. He said some were involved in drug trafficking, homicide, and extortion. Earlier this month, Peruvian authorities raided a hotel in Lima, where they detained over 100 Venezuelans, seizing guns and drugs. Venezuela's political and economic crisis has forced millions of people to leave the country. In Brazil, a university student has invented a cheaper way to make electricity. The student's new method uses just paper, graphite, and steam.
This is 22-year-old Kerry Moreira demonstrating the new technique she has developed to generate electricity at the Santa Maria Federal University. She joins together 20 pieces of square paper painted with graphite, which she then uses to power up 60 LED bulbs. Energy is produced by water molecules present in the air. This is then captured with the graphite-laced paper piled together. From that, electricity flows.
The energy that is captured in the device does not involve any electrochemical. It is to do with the ions that are present in the atmosphere. So that's another reason why this battery is sustainable and ecologically sound.
The mechanics behind the invention are powerfully simple. The accessibility of the materials and their low price could have a major impact on electricity generation for poorer communities around the world.
Today, with the development of Kelly's research, in her master's, we got enough energy to power 50-60 LEDs every 10 seconds. It's considerable amount of energy that is free. It would help people get access to low-cost lighting.
Although still in its initial stages, Moreira hopes the idea behind her invention could be magnified for homes.
The Pakistani government is organizing a 2-day conference in Kenya on a major trade outreach to Africa. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has reached Nairobi to attend the Pakistan-Africa Trade Development Conference being held on Thursday and Friday. In a statement, the Foreign Office said the Commerce and Foreign Ministries are hosting the conference that will strengthen economic ties between the two countries. It said Kenyan cabinet members, dignitaries from other African states, and Pakistani envoys in Africa will attend the conference. It said the move is part of Pakistan's Engage Africa initiative to forge closer ties with the African continent. Shares in Hong Kong are plummeting as markets returned from a holiday amid coronavirus fears. Investor anxiety over the outbreak has been led to a constant negative trend over the past week. The Hang Seng Index dropped almost 3% in early trade, but Japan's Nikkei 225 has recovered over 0.5% after registering serious losses earlier in the week. Overall, the MSCI Asia ex-Japan Index 2 is trading close to 0.5% lower. Markets in China remain closed for a holiday, but the yuan has steadied after sliding to a month low on Monday. Time now to find out what the weather is like around the world. And there you have it. You're all caught up. Thank you for watching this bulletin here on Indus News.